Everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Thoughtonomy podcast, where we have conversations designed to get you to think for yourself in a world that wants to do it for you. And I'm so super excited to have my guest today, the man who's very comfortable being behind the microphone. So we're putting him on the spot today. It's Styles Mbatha. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. What an absolute privilege being here. I mean, this is huge because I've known you for years.
Yep.
And I never ever thought that you'd be somebody who would actually have a podcast. So this is really cool to be here for your second episode.
And if we look back over the years, we could probably realistically say, never expected that you'd be on such a rising star on the radio. And I say never expected because when I met you in the hospitality industry, we used to talk about Arsenal and Spurs, and we used to have our kids around. And I remember one day you shared with me how your dream is music.
Yeah.
And you were writing little songs for radio. What do you call them? What's
jingles.
You were writing jingles for radio. How did you get into that?
It's quite interesting. So being in hospitality, I always had a passion for music. And I remember East Coast Radio's breakfast team wanted to make they actually had asked KZN to make a jingle. And I think what had happened was myself and Hendrik, this friend of mine, we had put out this really cool jingle and we sent it out to them, and they immediately said, hey, we really like it and we want to sign a 6-month contract with it or whatnot. Anyway, so that's where it pretty much started, where I was working in hospitality but also making music privately. So I was always Styles, the private, musician, but I never really got out there with music until the whole East Coast Radio jingle thing. So once that went out, it was like, wow, cool.
Well, we always talk about the difference between having a job and having a passion. In fact, I was talking to my daughter about this the other night.
Yeah.
We can have a passion that we love. It can kind of be a hobby of ours in the background, but isn't it ideal in an ideal world that the thing that makes us money as well is the thing we love the most? Because when we dive into something that is our passion, you literally explode as a human being. You explode into your potential. So for anyone out there who's listening, who's got like a side hobby that they have an absolute passion for, how do they keep going with this dream? What was your process? Like, if you look back now, your star is rising, as I've said. You're doing incredible stuff on the radio, and congratulations to you. I'm loving watching your journey. What do you say to that person out there who's got this dream that sometimes they're doubting? How do they keep going?
You're always going to have doubts. I mean, I never really thought that I would be a radio presenter. But what I had was a strong circle of friends and a community that always said you can do it. For example, you. Like, I remember being in a position where you always said to me, you do know you could be on radio. And at that time, I would say, okay, cool, maybe I could. But I always had doubts because I never knew the right people or how to get into it. And then, of course, if I can say this as a testimony to what I'm going to say about persevering into what you want to do or what you want to be. When this ungodly pandemic of COVID-19 started, things obviously changed. And when I moved to Durban, the presenter search for East Coast Radio started. I entered the competition, and everybody who had seen that I'd entered the competition said to me, you're going to win. But I had no knowledge. I had no knowledge of radio or what to do in terms of being a radio presenter. All I knew was I wanted to do this because I've been told, and I knew that I could do it, but I just did not think I could grab it.
And that's powerful, by the way. And we were just talking off air recently, is so often as human beings, we see ourselves differently to how the rest of the world sees us.
Yeah.
And when somebody compliments on us on something that we don't believe ourselves, what do? We just deflect it. We go, okay, thank you. But I'm not that way, or whatever.
100%.
So there was something inside of you that possibly didn't really truly believe it, but all these people around you were going, well, hey, you've got this within you.
Yeah.
And what was the flick? What was the switch where you suddenly remembered or believed that you could do this?
I think once I got into the quarterfinals of the presenter search, I had a lot more confidence and a lot more self-belief, because I thought to myself, if I can get to the quarterfinals and we're doing all of these things on air and on video, I'm already now beginning to be seen by so many people. And now that brand that I've been working on needs to now come out. And I think that's what happened. I think I finally started to believe in the fact that this is going to happen. Semi-finals came through and I was like, whoa, okay, this is were close. And by the time we got to the finals, I think that morning of the finals, I woke up and I actually said, I'm going to get this. And it's not to underplay anyone else who is part of the competition. I just, you know that gut feeling when you know that you're going to get something. When you're like, I've been wanting this and now I can finally get it. That's what I felt that morning.
Yeah.
You know how you felt a couple of years ago when you said, I want to write a book one day. And you finally got to that point in your life to write that book and to now put it out.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I had. I had that feeling. And when I got it, I was like surprised, but I wasn't surprised. I was grateful. I was like, wow, I'm so proud of myself for believing in the fact that I was going to get it. But there's a trick that comes to winning. There's a trick that comes to winning. You can't say, I've now got this cup of coffee, but tomorrow morning, I'm not interested in that cup of coffee. You gotta keep having that hunger to get better and to pursue and to become more and more and more. I've been doing weekends for the last four years. I started off doing the 2 to 6 in the morning show.
Yeah.
Then got weekend breakfast, 6 to 10 a.m. By the time this podcast is out, I'm sure I'm allowed to announce this, but because it will be out. This podcast will be out by the time this announcement comes up. But I've just been given a new show. I've just been given Top 40 on East Coast Radio, which is a massive show.
That's awesome, man.
It's a massive show. And I said to myself, in 2024, I want Top 40. I said it last year. I said in 2024, I want Top 40.
Can you see the difference? I mean, just in this conversation and going back on your journey, the difference between self-confidence and belief in oneself and self-worth versus somebody who's doubting whether they are worthy of achieving the goal that they want. And you said when you got to the final stage, you had this self-belief that you were going to win. What if, I mean, how differently would your life have been if you'd had that self-belief earlier on in your life? In fact, I opened the book up with that statement. If I could live my life again, I'd want to live it more confidently. Because even when we succeed as human beings, so often we have this imposter syndrome of, oh, I was just lucky.
Yeah.
What if we all lived our lives with this supreme belief, and it's not arrogance, it's confidence in knowing who I am, and you've got to love yourself. You have to love yourself to know who you are, right? But 100%. If I love myself and I know who I am, and I know what I want, and I want to move towards it confidently without worrying about the opinion of others, imagine how different our lives would all be.
Going back to what you said earlier, like achieving everything early, I'm actually grateful that I never achieved any of this earlier.
Grateful for the journey.
I am so grateful for the journey because I'm also in a point in my life where I'm not letting anything get to my head. But if I was Justin Bieber's age, when he first emerged, I'd be where he is now. He's unhappy. I think I'm so content with the fact that I had to work to be where I am right now, that I appreciate every single thing. Off air, we were talking about the fact that I'm getting booked out with a lot of gigs. I never, ever imagined that. If I had that earlier, with all the money that comes with it and all of the popularity, I think it would get to my head. I'd be like, cool, Grant, you know what, I'm going to get that Porsche. I'm like, nah, I want that SUV.
So what you're talking about now is there is a sequence to success.
100%.
It starts with survival.
Yeah.
It moves to stability.
Ooh.
All right. And then it moves to success, and after that, it goes to significance.
100%.
And survival is just that place where I'm not earning enough money to meet my needs. You know, I'm literally living from month to month.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in survival, to get from survival to stability, where you're earning enough money to match your expenses, you need a change of habits.
100%.
So you got to learn those habits, right?
You have to, and I think if I accomplish everything at a younger age, I think I would not have appreciated as much as I can now.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, I would have been out partying. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship where I want to get married to this woman.
Yeah.
I want to build a home with this woman. I would never have thought like that if everything had happened.
You've got to
earlier.
learn the habits that are required to get you to stability, and then to move from stability to success, you've got to change your thinking. There's
100%.
a whole change in thought process.
Yeah.
So for a guy like Justin Bieber or anyone who's thrust from survival to significance, because significance is that level where you're earning so much money you're earning more than you need, and you want to start now thinking about a legacy and all that. If you thrust from survival into a position where you have more money than you know what to do with, and you haven't learned the habits, and you don't change your thinking, you haven't learned the thinking patterns, you see what happens, right? They self-destruct. So I appreciate what you're saying. The journey and the growth that comes through the journey is so powerful. And a lot of young people, we're in this instant gratification society at the moment. When we spoke about seed planting, we constantly seed planting as human beings. And if we keep watering those seeds
100%.
and we develop, however, we would develop a hell of a lot faster if we just believed in who we are as
100%.
human beings.
And like you said, it's a process. You had a quote earlier on. You said, "This is my quote for the day."
Oh my gosh, I've gone blank.
The longer it takes, or something like that.
The longer it takes you, the longer it takes you.
And I love that. I mean, I immediately was like, "Oh, that's pretty deep."
Yeah.
But I want to ask you a question. For Grant, think of you, right, and what you've accomplished. Let's say over the last 5 years.
Yes.
Everything that you've been through, the positives, the negatives, the excitement, the joy, the pain. What is success to you?
I know this answer, and I'll give it to you now. And a lot of people, when I say this answer, they go, "No, that's too simple." For me, success is, am I happy? And I know that sounds so fluffy. For me, if I'm happy as a human being, and you can encompass work, personal relationships, self-reflection, if I'm feeling happy with my life, that means I'm ticking all those boxes. And I mean proper happiness, like happiness where I'm waking up in the morning and I'm happy with who I am, I'm happy with my life, I'm happy with what I've achieved. So for me, success is never about a number, it's never about an achievement. If we're successful, awards and recognition, that comes. But if I'm a happy human being, I will achieve way much more in my life. And I've experienced it because emotion, and this we talk about in the book, emotion is such a driver of behavior. And behavior is such a driver in terms of whether you will or will not succeed in life. So if I'm unhappy, if I'm sad, if I'm depressed, if I'm down, then my behavior reflects that.
100%.
And I don't end up achieving anything. So for me, getting myself to a place where I am happy, with who I am, who's around me, and what I'm doing with my life, am I following my passions? One of the most frustrating things in life is to be doing something when your passion is a completely divergent angle to what you're doing. It's very hard to pull somebody away from a passion. You generally are drawn to a passion because that's what makes you feel most alive. So I know that's a simplistic answer, but for me, if I'm happy, I'm successful.
100%. And I think it's a pure reflection of who you are as a person and everything that you've achieved. I mean, I've known you for years. In fact, you know what? I've known you for almost a decade.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a very long time. And I mean, speaking of your book as well, like, I was thinking about it this morning, and I always like to say that to create a masterpiece like you've created, you need to be like a Roald Dahl. The author Roald Dahl?
Yes, I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Now, his story, like, I love reading. And the one thing that I know about Roald Dahl is that he, as a young person, his first couple of books that he wanted to put out were books for adults. And it never sold, it never did well. And then he realized that he needed to think differently to allow his stories to come out, to allow people to reflect on themselves. And that's why he created books like The Fantastic Mr. Fox. Now, we read those books as young teens or whatnot because we had them at school. And we're like, oh, wow, Fantastic Mr. Fox. But the message in those books are so powerful to our lives. I mean, the story of...
So you're saying he was writing to kids, but he was still reaching adults.
Reaching to adults. And what you've done there is anyone who reads the cover, right, of your book will be like, oh, that's an adult book. But the minute you read that, as a young person, you're like, whoa.
I want 18-year-olds coming out of school to be reading this. And I've had a couple of parents actually contact me and say, we need to get this book into the schools. That's, for me, at 17, 18, you can grasp the concepts of Thoughtonomy there. It's life-changing.
100%. I think that's what that's what hit me the first couple of chapters reading it. I was like, wow. Firstly, it's an easy read.
Yeah.
But also it's books. It's a book that's telling you real emotions about how to look at yourself. It's that self-awareness and be like, wow, like how can I grow? How can I be better? How am I thinking? How's my thinking like? And that's why I say, like, this book reminds me of Roald Dahl, where he's taken such a simple book and he's made it so powerful, not just for older people, but for everybody.
Yeah.
And I really, part of your success story, I really hope this gets into the right schools, to the right hands.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying our best there.
Because it's a really cool book. And what inspired you? What allowed you to allow what you have in your brain? Because remember, everything that we have in here and we put out, it's a chemical that's in your brain that allows you to think the way that you think. How did you create this? What allowed you to wake up and say, I'm going to write this?
I don't think you wake up and decide that you're going to write it. I think for me, this was 35 years in the making.
Wow.
You know? It's a life, like you said, the journey, you learn so much in your journey of your life. But certainly in the last 10 years of my life, just in investing in myself, in terms of personal growth, it kind of led to this point. And what a lot of people don't know is that when I ran the Durban Entrepreneurs Club, I used to write an email every single week, every Sunday night. And that's how my content creation started. Is for almost 5 years of my life, I wrote a mail every single Sunday night. And the subscriber base grew to about 4,500 people. And it's quite difficult when you're doing that because you're sending a mail out every week and very few people are responding.
Yeah.
But like we'll speak about branding now, when you're building a brand, you're drip feeding something and it's consistency that grows. So I eventually was left with all this content. I mean, it's a thought-provoking email every single Sunday. So that's 52 weeks times 5 years. I had a Microsoft Word document of content. And just after COVID, I thought, well, there's a book in here, like Chicken Soup for the Soul. I could have 52, one a week into a book called The Sunday Startup.
Yeah.
And I sent it off to a publisher, and I got a Dear John letter back going, sorry, we've got so many books now after COVID, we can't do this.
Yeah.
And for me, you take that step back going, there's my first blow.
Yeah.
And then I just rethought it, and I had this talk called Thoughtonomy that I'd started developing. I then started learning different concepts through a coaching course that I did, which kind of backed up everything that I was talking about. And I just completely took that Sunday startup, reworked the content, and then added the power of stories. So for me, stories are emotional. So every single chapter has a story.
Yeah.
And then the story led into content.
Yeah.
But this Thoughtonomy process was something that I probably developed over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a long process.
I've always said that I want to write a book, but I love what you said in the beginning there. It's 35 years of just knowledge and just everything. And I think it goes back to what you wanted to say about branding and that how you built your brand and how long it took for you to... And I think it's important that you must never get impatient when it takes too long.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that I went through everything that I went through in order to be where I am now, because I think it grew me to be where I am now.
Absolutely.
And if I got it before, I think I would not have been as hungry. I would not have ambitions. I mean, I've got so many things that I want to achieve even outside of radio. Like, for example, my own coffee shop, my own coffee bean, my own restaurant, because of that hospitality background.
Yeah.
Because I love people. And people keep saying to me, how are you going to do it? I'm like, I don't know, but I believe I'll do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know when that moment will come where I'm going to wake up and say, I'm going to do it, but it will happen. I know that it will happen because I believe I always like to say it's part of your blueprint. Yeah. Everything's part of your blueprint. I mean, you had a blueprint of having this book. You got a coffee shop now. That's all part of your blueprint. You thought about this, maybe not recently, but years ago, and said, one day I'm going to have my own coffee shop at my work. So everyone doesn't have to go out for coffee. They can come get a good cup of coffee here.
Somebody said to me the other day, they said, gee, Grant, everything you touch turns to gold. And I think for the first time, I started to believe, yes, maybe that's true. Not in an arrogant way, but I do believe this of everybody, that if your dream is strong enough, your desire is strong enough, and you have a blueprint or a plan to get you towards that dream, all you have to do as the human being is to follow the blueprints with discipline and resilience and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Everything is possible. Everything is possible. And the one thing that we have that holds us back is this powerful mind of ours. And it's not only that as human beings we don't use the processing power of our minds enough, they're powerful, but it's all the rubbish that we feel. It's the negative self-talk. And I heard somebody say the other day, motivation is actually the questions that you ask or you say to yourself.
Yes.
And if you're stuck in that, why does this always happen to me question, you're not putting yourself in the right position. So on that topic of motivation, you are so full of energy. Every time I see you, it's like this, hello, hi, and there's got to be days when you don't feel like that inside. How does Styles and Mbatha, how do you keep yourself strongly motivated? Because when you're on radio, you're on show, right?
Yeah.
You got to show up every single day. And there must be days, especially when you're doing 2 to 6 in the morning, where you don't feel like going into work.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Show up. I always say this before I turn the microphone on.
Yeah.
This is a legit thing I do.
Yeah.
Before I turn the mic on and say, good morning and welcome to the show, I always say, it could have been anyone else, but it's you.
Yeah.
I always say that to myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. It doesn't matter what I've been through. It could have been anyone else.
Yeah.
But it's you in front of that microphone.
Isn't that gratitude? The essence of gratitude?
100%. And I literally, and it's a real thing. I literally throw on my headphones and and there'll be a song playing from the last hour before it hits top of the hour for me to do my opening link where I say good morning. I'll listen to the last part of that song where, for example, let's say it's Taylor Swift Fortnite with Post Malone. I'll be enjoying that last bit because it's a bit of a bop and I'll be bopping. And while that's playing, I've turned it up and I'm like, it could have been anyone else, but it's you. Come on. Could have been anyone else, but it's you. And I get myself ready.
Because Styles of 10 years ago would have given anything to be in that seat.
100%.
And who are you to wake up on that morning and go, I don't feel like doing this?
I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no... I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this. I have absolutely no remorse for anyone who does not show up in anything that they do. I truly believe that if you want something to happen in your life, you need to get up and go and do it. And do the best that you can do with it. Because,
this is the power. This is the power of gratitude. And for anyone who's listening right now, who's going through a tough time, and we all go through tough times, right? I mean, you and I sitting in front of these microphones, we've probably got stuff going on in our personal lives right now that nobody knows about. Okay?
Yeah.
And to the person down who's really, really feeling down right now, and who's sitting out there, the power and the essence of gratitude, if you take it back to the most fundamental level of being, is that you got to wake up this morning. And imagine if all of us, I'd spark that thought by you saying, I get to sit in this chair every day. Every single human being who opens their eyes in the morning should be grateful for what they have. Yes, we all want more, but if you start from that place of being grateful with what I have and you focus there, gratitude resonates on an emotional level. It's probably one of the only forms of positive thinking that hits you emotionally. So we were talking just before the break on gratitude and the power of gratitude, in that in terms of negative thinking, when we think negatively, sadness, anger, hurt, guilt, it resonates emotionally. So that's why negative emotion is massive. When we think positive thoughts, it doesn't really hit us emotionally except for gratitude. When we start focusing on what we have already.
Yeah.
So gratitude is powerful. And I said, everyone who wakes up, you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes, be grateful that you get another shot at today.
And I think that's where I think a lot of my energy comes in, because I'm going to get a little deep now. So in 2012, I had a suicide attempt, which I failed dismally. And it's because I was incredibly broken with my life, my identity, and who I was. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It was just me. And when I failed to take my life, I made a promise to myself that I was going to be the best that I could be at anything because of the fact that I could still open my eyes and have air going through my lungs and to breathe and to just get up. And that's why I show up. And we need to be like that. If we want to achieve something, we need to go out there and get it, but also appreciate it. I appreciate every single thing that I have. You're right. There are days where you wake up in the morning, you just feel like the world is coming down on you.
Absolutely.
But you just have to look back at yourself and say, all right, I've done this, I'm doing this, I've got this coming up, I've got these plans, I've got this. I'm winning. I'm winning because you're showing up for yourself all the time. So I think with my failed suicide attempt in 2012, it motivated me to appreciate everything and life because we're only here once. We only exist once.
And it's such a small existence.
And it's a very small existence. Yeah. And in that small existence, you have the power to do everything that you possibly can for yourself and for everyone else around you, that when your time has come, people are going to be like, geez, I remember when Grant did this. And it's little things.
Yeah.
It's little things. And that's why I say, appreciate every single thing that you do and everything that you have, because there's somebody out there who would have worked 20 times harder for it.
Yeah. And I do believe, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you want to write a book. I honestly believe that everybody has a book within them. And to the single mom out there who's struggling and can't find a way to make it through the day because she's got so many pressures, and the single dad or the human being who's just lost a loved one, you know, there's so many emotional things that can happen in our lives. And unfortunately, we do come to this earth and we sent here to experience problems and challenges. Yeah. There's always going to be pain in some form. The key is learning the lessons that I needed to learn from all of my challenges, and then taking action to correct so that I can go on and live a life of potential.
Yeah.
And I always say to my coaching people when they come, if they come to me at a low point, I actually say to them, well, I'm really super excited. And they look at me, and they're, what do you mean?
That's a bit odd.
Well, I'm meeting you at a low point.
Wow.
Which means over the next 10 sessions or 12 sessions, we're starting from here, and the only way is up.
It's only
and
I
get to watch that journey.
That's
fulfilling for me as a coach, and you must be excited about it. So when we're at a low point in our life, we also get to make decisions. And so happy that you got to that point and was able to make a different decision. And if that was the low point in your life, imagine the beauty that's going to come now.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I love that, because that whole, what you just said now just reminded me of a cocoon.
Yeah.
You know, cocoon, and then it just splits, and then this beautiful butterfly comes out.
Yeah.
And we need to imagine ourselves as a cocoon. You know, we're scared, we're going through the most, but go through that. It sucks. It sucks. But just keep allowing the pain from the outside to allow this growth from within to allow you to bloom into this amazing thing that you can be.
Yeah. I say in the book, I mean, going through emotion, how we get through unwarranted emotion is we look for the lesson, the learning, or the meaning. You know, when you experience something in the moment and that red mist of negative emotion is there, it kind of blinds us.
Yeah.
But we get through whatever it is, death, divorce, loss of a business, loss of a love, whatever, break up in a relationship. A year later, we look back and we go, oh, but look what happened. Look where my life is now.
Yeah.
And look what I needed to learn from that experience.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when we see the learning for what, because quite often we go through something and we ask this question, why is this happening to me? Why, If it's meant to be, show me the reason now.
Yeah.
Time is an amazing healer.
100%.
And so often we look back on horrible moments, crucible moments in our life, and we go, wow, look how that changed the path and the course of my life to where I am now.
100%. It reminds me of I look up to this rapper by the name of Jay-Z. I'm sure you know him.
Sure.
It's a song called Young Forever. And the lyrics go, fear not when, fear not why, fear not much while you're still alive. Life is for living, not living uptight. And I like what you said there, because it's true. Like, we have to go through all of these things in order to just be content and appreciate everything.
And I don't want anyone to sit there and listen and go, oh, but you're preaching. I've been through my fair share.
Yeah.
I've been through my fair share. We all do as human beings.
Yeah.
And I still go through my, I've got friends and people in my life who go, you're a coach, you should know. Like, I don't. Because when you're going through it yourself and you're living through the emotion yourself, the red mist is there.
Yeah.
Right? And the things that seem logical when you're struggling with negative emotion are illogical.
100%.
It's the same for me, it's the same for you. So what I try and do in this book is I just try and give steps. There's a whole chapter on emotion.
Yeah.
And there's a sequence of emotion and the way the waves of the different negative emotions will hit you. And but you come out of it.
Yeah.
You do come out of it.
It's quite cool, because a friend of mine said to me, bro, you're very successful. So I said to him, nah, I haven't reached that point of success yet. You know, I haven't got to what I want to do. And he says, no, but look at everything you've achieved. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. You know, and then you go back and you reflect, and you're like, geez, you know, like I've done a lot. I've achieved a lot.
Let me throw that question back at you that you asked me. What does success mean to you?
What does success mean to me? You know, you had an interesting point about happiness, and I think happiness is very important. I think happiness is very, very important in a sense where if you're not happy, you have no self-confidence, you have no self-belief, you have no motivation to continue because you're always so upset. It starts with you. Success is when you can wake up in the morning and say, I'm not making much money at the job that I'm doing, but I'm going to show up for it because I love my life. Why? Because I'm going to come home to a roof and a warm bed and some food in the fridge. That, for me, is success. I used to think that success was money. I used to think that success was clubbing. I used to think that success was having all these girls around you. That's what I thought success was. But yet again, I think everyone has their own story of success. I grew up differently. I grew up where everything that I have, I've never come from generational wealth. I'm going to create generational wealth for myself. So that's why I always say to people, your ceiling is not my ceiling.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the fundamental reason why comparing yourself to others is so detrimental to your own self-worth as well. The minute you start, you know, the chapter in my book is run your own race. Stay in your lane and don't compare yourself to anyone else, because your past and therefore your conditioning and the way that you think and the way that you see the world is going to be different to mine.
Yeah.
And the minute you start comparing yourself to me or anybody else who has a different background to you and different set of challenges and circumstances, you're only going to downtrodden yourself.
Yeah. Success, to answer your question, is to wake up in the morning, coming home to your significant other, family, a friend, your relationship. You have a strong, positive community. Success is you having a job, looking forward to the next part of your growth in your life. That for me is success. Success doesn't have to be what all these famous people and how they live in Hollywood and the glitz and glamour.
Yeah, and you don't know how many of those people are fundamentally unhappy with their
at,
lives.
Look at what's his name?
Prince Harry.
Yeah, look at Ben Affleck. You know, he's always grumpy. I see videos of him walking with Jennifer Lopez. I'm like, have you seen your wife? She's incredibly stunning. Babe, if you've seen this podcast, Jennifer Lopez is beautiful. We both know that. But she is incredibly stunning. But he will not appreciate her because he's just so unhappy. But that's because he's not happy. It's him.
Yeah.
Maybe Jennifer does put a lot of pressure on him. You know, she's Jenny from the block, after all. But once you're happy, I think when you're content with who you are and you can just say, look, and going back to what you said, it's not arrogance, it's not egotism. It's you saying, I am wonderful, and I've been created the way that I've been created to flaunt the way that I'm going to flaunt.
But it's just stepping into what you were born to do. And haven't you? I mean, you must have, and you're doing it right now, right? When you watch somebody who steps into the space that they were just born to be as a human being.
Yeah.
not only do you watch them thrive and grow, but they do inspire other people along the way.
100%.
And you never know who you're inspiring. There'll be, I always say the first people that you don't realize how you influence them as your children, because they're always watching you, you've got kids. But just people around you. I notice here in the office, if I just change a few things in terms of the way I'm living my life, and I do it consistently for a long enough period of time, I notice others start to do the same.
Yeah, it's influence.
I do notice it. So we as human beings have this incredible privilege, actually, that if we step into our destiny, we step into what we were sent here to do, we step into our fullest potential, we have the privilege to inspire other people, and you don't need to be standing on a stage.
Yeah.
You just need to be going about your day to day, whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, 100%. I want to just say something.
Yeah.
Just
podcast, you're allowed to.
just before we you have the next question or wanting to wrap up. I just want to say thank you, Grant, for being the mentor that I never had.
Oh, that's a pleasure.
I think the one thing that I've always realized about you is how you always see me growing, but you're always saying to me, you need to keep going. And I appreciate that. I think it's really important that we have a strong community around ourselves in order to grow as individuals, because we can get caught up in our lives. Sometimes I do wake up in the morning and I'm just like, yeah, man, I did that. I went up on stage and all went crazy. But sometimes you just need someone just to say, come off that chair, relax, calm down. You can do more.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I think you are a fantastic mentor, not just to me, but I watched it earlier on when you're speaking to your staff members, and how when you spoke, when you speak and people's ears perk up and they don't even have to show you that you can just sense like a whole, like from slouch to they're hearing you, they're acknowledging what you're saying, how you present yourself. Going back to what you're saying, how they change their lifestyle because of how you've changed something. You're very influential. And I think you do acknowledge that. I think you do know that. But I don't think you know it enough.
No, I don't think any of us know. Firstly, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Somebody asked me once, what's your life purpose? In fact, Rob, I think it's Deepak Chopra wrote a book on leadership, soulful leadership. And in the book, I think it was like chapter 3, he was asking you questions, and I had my pen and I was writing, and he was trying to bring it down to, what is your life vision, your personal vision for your life? Like, why are you here? And it had to, through the sequence of questions, it came down to 2 words, and mine was to inspire. So if ever I'm setting an intention for the day, and I think I've been doing it for years now, it's like, and it doesn't matter who I inspire. My intention for my life, my vision for my life is to inspire. So if you've noticed that, thank you, because I don't sometimes realize, because I'm just carrying on with what I do.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very powerful place to be for you when you are diving into what you were born to do. It's very, very powerful.
You're killing it. You really are. And I can't believe it took you this long to start a podcast. You should have done this years ago. But
yeah,
goes back to what we were saying. If it happened earlier, maybe it would not be as influential as it is now.
Yeah, and you have to believe that you can do it. And that's why I say this is a 35-year journey, this. And maybe this is a nice way to end the show today, is just to talk about the power of compliments. So the one thing I've noticed about human beings is that we're very quick to criticize one another, but we're very bad at complimenting one another. And we're also very bad at receiving compliments. And I'm gonna say now, you were talking earlier, there were so many people in your life who were kind of egging you on, going, hey, we see potential in you. We see that you could be a radio presenter. Believe me, there's been many people in my life that have said, you should speak, you should do this. But until you believe it, you don't take action. So the thing I want to leave on today is, like, if somebody takes the time to compliment you, start practicing just saying thank you and believing it. Because when you say thank you and acknowledge it, as opposed to, oh, no, it's nothing, like, I don't really do that, or hey, you're wearing a beautiful dress today. oh, no, this is something that I took out the cupboard, you know. As human beings, we're so quick to deflect compliments. We should be receiving them as much as we should be giving them. Imagine if human beings spent more time complimenting one another and acknowledging one another for the things that we can't see ourselves. Remember, if you can't see it yourself, when somebody compliments you, you don't believe it. But maybe we change our thinking. When somebody compliments us, believe it.
100%.
Because they've seen something in you that maybe you don't even acknowledge yourself. And when the penny drops and you change that limiting belief of how you see yourself, you open up a whole new world of possibilities and potential.
100%. I got a compliment for you.
Thank you.
Well written.
Oh, thank you.
That is a really good book. And if you haven't read it, please, where can I find it?
Thoughtonomybook.co.za.
There we go. Please read it. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Thank you, my man. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Second episode.
No script, eh? I don't know. Do you have a script on radio every day when you go in? You have? You probably
Yes
do.
and no.
I've always wondered where the DJs...
It's always good to prepare.
Yes.
But not a script.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I don't have a script, I think your breakfast shows, those hectic shows probably have a bit of a script.
Yeah.
But it's always be prepared, but bring out your natural self. The problem is when you have a script, you're going to read and you'll be like, welcome to the podcast.
But if you don't have a script and you get nervous or you have a little pause and something distracts you, now you've got silence. You can't have silence on the radio.
But that's why you think it out and you say, this is my introduction, this is the core messaging, throw to the audience. Those are the three main important things to do. Like even in this conversation, this is the question, this is what I went through, tell me about yours.
Yeah.
And
shared experiences are so powerful. And I want
100%.
to thank you for being vulnerable and for opening up. I think it's been an amazing conversation and I hope everyone out there has got great value.
100%. 100%.
And
We should do this again.
Good luck.
I really want to do this again.
We will.
100%.
We'll do it when you got the morning drive.
Well,
from 6 to 9 in the morning.
Let's get the top 40 first.
Top 40
we'll do the top 40 and then straight off the top 40, see what happens. Maybe I could be on your television screen. Yeah. You never know.
No, but I know everyone's so super proud of you. So you just keep
Thank
going.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See, I'm receiving the compliment. Thank you.
Well done. Lesson learned.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone, for listening.